I went to Vivek Ramaswamy's presidential campaign event in Iowa. Walked up to his campaign manager, and in my accent, I was like, I am Louis from France, and I would like to do an interview for Mr. Vivek for the French news. And she looked at me and was like, sure. Just let me in.
Running a pretty tight ship around here.
Yeah. And so then Vivek comes over, and I was terrified. I could get arrested. I didn't know what was going to happen. I had no idea.
Welcome to the Afterthoughts podcast. Today we have someone, maybe the most powerful person in the world, named Donald. Donald Gee.
Donald Gee.
I just wanted for a second, maybe if you started on the angle of me, people will think like, did they get the president on the Afterthoughts podcast? Not yet. But let's start, Donald, with your name.
Donald G.
First of all, do people ever call you Donald G? Like,
Yeah. Well, that's how it's pronounced, actually.
is it really?
Yeah, I didn't want to correct you.
It's Donald G.
You can. 2 podcasts in.
Is it Donald G?
It's actually
Do
Donald
people
G.
ever pronounce it Donald Gee?
No. I mean, actually, most people do. Most people
We
do.
literally did an entire event with you.
I must have.
We only said it once.
Did the lady introduce you wrong at South by Southwest as well?
Yeah, 100%.
Donald.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, man.
No, it's totally fine.
Let's try this
Donnie
again.
G.
Welcome to the Afterthoughts podcast, where we are here with Donald G, as I have always called him.
Yeah.
Interesting time to be named Donald.
It is. It's always been an interesting time in Donald, I feel like.
You and Doug kind of have in common that you have old guy names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They both start with D.
I have a child's name in Ethan.
Ethan.
That
That is true. It is.
I don't know
I
any
think I'm
other.
probably the oldest Ethan on
I don't know
earth,
any other dad named Ethan.
other than
Right.
Ethan Hawke. I
And,
think I'm the second oldest Ethan on earth.
and I'm the only Doug I know.
I'm the youngest
under 60.
Donald I've ever met.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah, for sure.
However, whatever your age gap is.
Are you named after
Doug
a
and Donald.
grandpa? or-
Yeah, both my grandfathers.
Yeah, okay, so am
Donald
I.
and Lewis. Really? Okay, nice.
Donald Lewis.
Yeah.
Douglas Wekenman.
That's right.
Douglas
Grandpa names.
Wekenman is your middle name?
Oh, Douglas William Wekenman.
Okay. I was like, whoa. That's a weird one.
Yeah, people mispronounce my middle name too.
I'm Slavic.
So, some people probably get really excited when they hear your name's Donald. Others may not. I don't know if you know this. A lot of people.
It's polarizing.
a lot,
I don't know if you know
people in
this.
our country
mixed
are.
Might be the
opinions.
single most polarizing name in the world right now.
People are obsessed with politics.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know about that?
In the United States?
Have you ever heard about that?
I've never even crossed my mind.
You know about politics?
A little. I mean, I have tried to stay away from it as much as possible.
Kind of seems like you're going after it. though.
Yeah, a
'Cause
little bit.
Have you ever
We'll
ventured
get to
to-
this, but
Yeah,
you have
yeah,
a
yeah.
character
Yeah,
you go into and you go interview politicians.
yeah.
And we can't wait to hear stories about that.
I can give you the full rundown if you want. How
Oh,
it
it's
happened.
going to be great.
Dude, it's such a
First of all, though, okay, so we did South by Southwest together.
Yes.
I believe most people said it was the most successful event of South by Southwest, the whole thing,
I think so.
which is
I think,
tremendous. But not everybody who.
Yeah. It was the biggest comedy event, I think, simply a venue size.
That's amazing.
Really?
Yeah.
We
'Cause,
did
like,
it, guys.
I think they estimated like 600 people came to the podcast
Yeah.
ish, and then 450, something like that. And yeah, there's just like there weren't other venues that were bigger than that. So most of the others
That's cool.
capped out like 100, 200.
Let's go, Donald
And when
G.
you guys
Donald G,
did
man.
stand up in that other room,
Yeah.
Dude, that was awesome.
That was
you
so
made a
Everyone
joke
loved it.
about everybody was standing the entire
Yeah,
Just
yeah, that
stand
was
and
wild.
watch you.
I've never
Yeah.
done a stand-up show in like that environment. It felt like a concert,
Uh-huh.
which I've actually done a bunch recently. But since then, I've done some. But before that, I'd never done just like stand-up, look at them.
It was cool to
was
watch you
great.
go from like interview style, which is a little different, to
Uh-huh.
straight up stand up.
Yeah.
You had like 2-minute buffer there
Yeah.
to switch characters.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
You crushed it. It was
Thank
really
you,
cool.
thank you. Yeah, it was fun.
Give the viewers that maybe didn't meet you, maybe they met you there as Donald Gee, but now we know you as Donald G.
Yeah.
Give us your stats. How tall?
It's a
are
big
you? How
difference.
tall are you, Donald?
6'2", 235.
60, okay.
About 25% body fat.
That's a month of working out. You're an outside linebacker, edge rusher.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
So originally from Johnston, Iowa, which is like 30 minutes north of Des Moines. My family's been there forever. Like my
Really?
grandfather was like superintendent of schools in the 60s.
Nice.
And when there was like 10 kids.
Donald or Lewis?
Lewis.
Lewis,
Yeah.
Because I
and-
know people will be asking.
Of course.
And
yeah.
then my dad's side's from West Texas. So
Okay.
Anson, right near Abilene.
Okay.
Yep.
Iowa.
Yeah.
I don't think about Iowa too much.
Most
What
people
should
don't.
what should I know about it?
Most people think about it once every 4 years, getting
Yeah.
back to that politics thing.
Oh,
And then the
yeah.
Democrats took
yeah.
away their caucus, so now it's literally just the Republicans there.
That's right.
Why'd they do that?
Iowa was
they just-
not reflective of the diversity of the country, and they wanted a different group.
So did
In
they kinda
reality,
felt
they kept
like-
losing, and they were mad about it.
Got it.
I was just in Iowa.
Not a political
gonna-
statement,
we're
by the
gonna-
way.
No, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
Of
We're gonna
course,
just, we're just keep saying that.
Of course.
You know what? Honestly,
Wow,
who
it was
cares?
a statement
People
about
are so
politics.
overly-
That's right.
Wow, how many
Worried
electoral
and-
votes does Iowa have? Do we know?
Like probably less than Congress, to be
Okay, well,
honest.
how
Four?
many?
Yeah, can we get a number on that?
I think we have 4. Not
Yeah.
many. Because it's like 1 for every
Texas
1
has like
million.
1,000. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's crazy.
I was in
Excuse
Donald.
the
I was in Waverly, Iowa, 2 weeks ago.
Really?
Have you ever been to Waverly?
Yeah, I've been to Waverly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was doing a singles conference out there.
Six. Okay.
I was gonna say it felt like 6.
Yeah,
while
I was
was
gonna say
there.
that too.
Oh, 6
It
electoral
was.
state.
They were great. People were great.
Uh-huh.
Awesome. Very small towns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is funny too because like the state of Iowa is actually losing population,
Oh.
but Des Moines, the bigger city, not big, but big city is like gaining population, and so those small towns are just like
So
leading people to the city.
everyone I talked to, they would always like roll their eyes and be like, "So and so's moving to Des Moines."
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know? It's like that's the place
It's like
where
when you
everyone's
sell
going
out.
to.
Yeah, that's how it feels in a small town for sure.
yeah,
It's like when you sign on with the big label.
yeah.
Yeah,
Corporate.
yeah.
Got mainstream.
Yeah, they're like the
Interscope.
Green Day of,
Des Moines
of Iowa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a comedian
I am.
as a profession,
I am.
a professional comedian, I guess I could say.
That is the fastest way to say it.
How efficient?
Yeah.
How's it going?
It's honestly been it has been an adventure and so fun. The past year has been like incredible.
Good.
It took a while. Like I wanted to do it for a long time, and like I always knew I wanted to perform in some capacity, whether it was in music or comedy. And in Iowa, right, like music, the biggest thing we've ever had for music was Slipknot,
Oof.
who actually
That comes from Iowa. Huh?
yeah, they were my neighbors. The dad, the
No
drummer.
way.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm getting
Was it
the drummer, the
was it
clown dude, or whatever.
Terrifying with just chainsaws and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like a
Yeah,
haunted
yeah.
house all the time.
They would like
probably.
offer us like tickets to their concert. And my dad was like, no,
Or was he just completely normal out there just doing yard work and
no.
no? Okay.
No,
That
they
would
were
be a funny thing.
Yeah,
to
like
do.
Sean, my dude Sean, fast. We didn't know though, because like my family like wasn't really plugged into culture in general.
Slipknot culture.
Yeah, and definitely not Slipknot culture. And we found out because one of their kids, Simon, who's also in a very successful band now,
Wow.
he's a couple years younger than me, and he and I were like in the neighborhood just playing whatever, and he was very rude. And I was like not having it, and then he said something like, "Do you know who my dad is?" I was like, "Nope." He's like, "My dad's famous," and I was like, "Cool." And then I went home. I was like, "Is Simon's dad famous?" And my dad was like, "I don't know." And then we Googled it. He's like, "Wow, he's really famous."
Yeah.
Incredibly
Better do what that kid
famous.
says.
Yeah, his dad's not only famous but might eat you.
Yeah.
Come to think
Those
of it.
guys are
Wow, he's
Well,
really
Yeah, those guys are wild.
so.
Slipknot.
Okay, let's talk about. Oh, go ahead. You were
No,
gonna,
no,
you were
no,
gonna talk
you-
about Slipknot.
But yeah, there was
Ryan's the biggest Slipknot fan I've ever met.
I was waiting till today to tell you this. It's actually the whole reason why I wanted to have you on here. Could
Really?
you introduce me to Simon by any chance?
Yeah, for
That'd be
sure.
great, man.
You know, lots of Ryan. Maybe we could FaceTime him
Yeah,
after
yeah.
this or
We
something.
we'll have to call my neighbor who's friends with them. But yeah.
For sure.
No, I've never listened to Slipknot a day in my life.
It's okay.
So
So you're a comedian, but you don't call yourself a Christian comedian, and that's
Mhm.
because as soon as someone hears that term, you assume not funny,
Yeah, I mean,
Unfortunately,
kind of, yeah.
right? But clean comedy. That's kind of
Yeah.
the label that you guys run with in your.
I do, yeah. It's
Genre?
interesting. Like, I actually had this conversation with someone I really like and admire, who's a musician, Blessing Offer, if you know him. He
What's
and
his
I-
name?
That's his name.
That's a cool one. Wow.
Yeah, given name. He's from Nigeria.
Wow.
And super great artist,
Oh, that's
Christian, super popular on like Christian radio.
Blessing Offer.
Blessing Offer.
so cool.
That's his real name. Like, some things are meant to be. And I think like
Yeah.
his dad was like, that's him.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And we had the same conversation of like, it is, if you say you're a Christian comedian or a Christian music artist, it comes with a certain set of expectations,
Mhm.
and it can sometimes prevent you from doing things that are very meaningful and reach a large number of people and are rooted in faith, but don't don't meet those expectations. And I definitely am in that category of like some of the things that I do in comedy would not qualify as Christian comedy at all. And I think like I made this joke to him. I was like, yeah, I think like my lane is sort of the edgiest guy that everyone knows goes to church, where it's like you would know, right? And like I would never want to do something that would actually hurt someone's feelings, whether it's roasting someone in a crowd or whatever. But I will talk about things that are not perfectly in line with what you would want to hear at a church, for example.
Sure.
Because I feel like there's a big difference between a comedy club or even like the internet, right? Like if you are putting things on the internet and you are doing it in a way that is very in line with what is expected from a Christian comedian, you will only ever reach people who are already Christian.
Correct.
You will never branch out past that because people automatically turn it off, right? Which is, that's kind of the interesting lane we're at, and we talked about at South by of how do you bridge that gap between church and culture. And I've definitely like made mistakes and like done things I was like, ooh, like I don't think that was good.
Cross the
I'm
line
gonna take that one down, you know. Where it was like too far one way. But that's kind of where it's all rooted from for me.
Good.
So
it's awesome.
Yeah.
And we'll hear some more stories about reaching people through that world in this, but I want to know, and everyone wants to know, how has your life changed since South by Southwest?
Dude,
you said this as a joke earlier, but it genuinely a lot. Like the event was super fun, incredible, and like meeting people and also sort of reaffirming that mission that we just talked about of bridging that gap. It was like super supportive. And then I met people there that led to opportunities I just never would have imagined. Right?
Oh, cool.
Like connected with Steve Bertrand, my guy out of Convoy of Hope, right? Like great guy. And he's connecting me with so many different people. I'm working with Alan Graham.
Alan's awesome.
He has sat in that seat.
That's right.
Believe it or not.
Really? Dude, big
Speaking
fan.
of a guy who could be a comedian.
Yes.
Alan is funny.
Yeah, he's fascinating. So we're going to do a comedy show at the Community First Village.
That's so good.
And he wants to make it sort of a medium moment. And he has a bunch of interesting people he's connected to as well.
Oh, yeah.
And then also I think just like the visibility or sort of status of South by is an interesting, like, gives you a bit of legitimacy in a way that you may not have had before. Like the comedy hasn't changed, but the experience and having that experience and being here, people are like, oh, that's cool. So it's opened the door musically for like people, like opening for people. There's more like
cool
up for it. So,
dude, tell us about your musical career.
Well, it's pretty non-existent, but I started as a musician. And I started in comedy as a musical comedian, and like a lot of what I do even now is like musical comedy on stage. And so like I try to, like, the songs themselves, I try to make them good songs that are inherently funny. And speaking of South by, one of the things I think sort of came out of doing South by was opening for Flatland Cavalry, which has been genuinely the most fun I've ever had.
You're doing that right now?
Yeah, the most fun I've ever had in my entire life.
That's awesome.
We just did the Pacific Northwest, and the guys in that band are the best.
Yeah.
Like when you think about who you would want to spend time with and like be around, it's them. And then they also have this just massively successful career.
Yeah, right.
And getting open for them, and anywhere from like 1,000 to 10,000 person venues.
No
that's
way.
kind of the size they're doing.
Are you doing songs only, or are you doing comedy as well, or both?
Comedy as well, dude. It's wild.
I love it.
So they show up for a concert and they kind of get a hybrid as the opener.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah,
That's
and
great.
it's fun too because
Heck
like it's a lot of people's first time ever seeing comedy, because a lot of the people there are like 18 to 26, and they can't get into comedy clubs because most comedy clubs are 21 plus. And so,
what's like the ratio for your set if it's like music versus just talking?
I do 2 songs typically, and then I do like probably 30% crowd work, and 30% material.
Dude, I bet they love that.
Oh, it's so fun.
Unexpected.
I've had so many people come up to me after, like, I did not expect it, but like people can be like, sign my arm, sign whatever, and like be super into it because they've never seen it before.
Yeah.
Do you get intimidated to do crowd work?
Oh yeah.
Because that's all improv in the moment.
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Let's just do a quick little crowd work.
Let's do some crowd work.
Here, I don't know if we need to do that right now.
You're ready.
Yeah.
I can
There's
tell.
there's not a single viewer of this podcast who would be upset if you said anything.
Yeah,
too
start with
harsh.
these two.
I feel like you're
off
just ready to pick us apart right now.
Yeah, no, but yeah, it was very intimidating. But it's funny, we were talking about this a little bit earlier too. Like, it was one of the things I've like found in comedy, especially, and this sort of goes back to the faith element of it. Like before I was doing comedy professionally, I had a very stable option because I studied civil engineering, had a scholarship to Georgia Tech, did a master's degree after that in public policy, also on scholarship. And so I had this consulting career that was awesome. Like, shout out to Ethan, my other boss.
How old is that, Ethan?
He's 50s. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he's older than you. Yeah.
No
I need
way.
I need to meet him.
He probably the first Ethan ever.
Yeah.
Older than me. I've never met an Ethan older
He
than
could be
me.
your mentor. Yeah.
He is my mentor.
Older.
now.
You know what's
In order
crazy
Ethan.
now that I'm thinking about it? I don't think that's his name.
Your manager?
I am like,
Is it possible that Donald D is your name? You just forgot that.
Getting your manager's
I
name
don't think
wrong
that's
is
his name.
is so great.
man.
Comment below if you think that this guy's name is Ethan, or if it's not, what you think his name probably is.
I'm gonna go stalk my own LinkedIn and figure out what my manager's name.
Report back.
Dude, that's crazy. Great guy,
Let's not
no matter
send-
what his name
Let's
is.
not send him this episode. It's clearly been an impactful person in you.
I did work with a person named Jeff. I know that for a
Oh, yeah,
fact.
I've met a few Jeffs.
Yeah.
He's in his 50s. I bet it's Jeff.
But
Or Evan.
The way you said that, you're like,
Yeah.
you know, it's crazy. And I thought you were about to say, like, he always talks about how he's the oldest, but it was like, I don't think that's his name.
yeah, whoa. This is wild,
Such an
dude.
awesome mistake to make.
This might be why this is happening to you. I woke up this morning. I have a text from Donald at 1:26 a.m. Looking forward to seeing y'all. I'll probably get there at about 10:15 if that's okay. Then I have another text from Donald at 4:46 a.m. Same thing. Looking forward to seeing y'all. And I don't know if
Wait,
that just
really?
said twice for some reason. But I was like, did he
Oh, he's just really excited to see us.
Yeah, I was-
just stayed up all night? Or this guy didn't.
When can I text him
He's
again?
like, why didn't he respond?
now.
This guy hasn't
Okay.
responded in 3 hours in the middle of the night.
Unless
Maybe-
I was texting you when I was asleep, I think it must have been. Can I see that? Because that's weird.
Were you flying here or? Yeah.
Weird.
Do you want me to text you and see, hey man, what's your manager's name? And see if it just like clicks
if
in
it
your
comes
head,
through.
or
That's. I did get in at 1:15 last night,
maybe
Okay.
maybe you're tired.
and
right
then
now.
I was in bed at like 2:30. So 4 is weird.
Well,
But I did also.
sometimes when you get your service back on, it gets all.
I also
wonky.
jumped on my bed and I had my phone in my hand and it flew out of my hand and broke a wall. So maybe my phone is like mad at me.
When you say jumped on your bed,
Your phone broke a wall?
Yeah, the place that I'm in, the phone seems to be fine. The place that I'm staying, the bed is very high, like above hip height. And
yeah.
so at 2:30 in the morning, I was like, I'm getting up there and jumped.
it's like you're in high school doing like the high jump.
the
Thank God you're 6'2", man.
Yeah. The 235 doesn't help. And
Counteracting.
yeah, the phone kind of flew out of my hand. And hit
Wait,
a wall,
was the
so-
phone on the bed and then your body launched
No,
the
it
phone?
was held in my hand and I just let go.
So it was the force of the bed that had you. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm seeing it now.
Yeah, it was mid jump. I let go,
And it broke the wall.
and it did. I'm gonna have to tell my friend about that.
But to be fair, it's not a great wall. I
Not
feel
a
like
great-
that's
yeah. Not the strongest wall.
Not
a
like
wall
these
should be
walls.
able to
Yeah.
hold
Okay.
up
Yeah.
against
Yeah.
the phone.
You can throw your phones at these walls.
Yeah,
We don't
go
care
ahead.
right now.
Thank you.
That's totally fine. It's Ryan's
So
office. So.
there's already holes in them. So it doesn't matter.
There are multiple. Welcome to my office.
Are you mid-tour right now?
Yeah, kind of. So I think since January I've done probably like 50 or 60 shows.
Oh my
A
gosh.
ton.
Wow.
Like every weekend, multiple shows, different city.
So what's it like? Like when you say tour, I just finished Mark Hoppus from Blink-182 memoir, where he
memoir.
talked about going on tour as a band and being in this crappy van.
Yeah.
And that's where they slept, taking turns driving through the night. And then like, you know, that's this end of the spectrum all the way to obviously where they are now, where they're flying and
Private
you know,
jets. Yeah.
all that stuff. What like when you say tour,
Where are you on that?
Yeah, so I don't even have a van. So it started. It started.
guy doesn't even have a van.
Yeah,
Doesn't
yeah.
know his manager.
Okay.
I take-
He doesn't even know who to ask for a van.
yeah, I'm
Evan.
I'm taking public transportation to gigs. No, It started. So when I was in college, didn't have a car or anything, so I would literally like ride my bike to shows or whatever.
Yeah.
That's
and
awesome.
then
Dude, just putting your bike in the back green room and then getting on
dude,
stage.
it was wild.
Is awesome.
Yeah. And then
Just so tired.
Yeah.
Sorry, just biked.
Yeah.
Catch my
I'm
breath.
training for triathlon.
Drying yourself
Is there a
off.
shower
Yeah.
here? Sorry.
Oh yeah.
There are actually. Most of them have
Yeah.
showers. Yeah.
That's good.
You said that's good. It sounded like you said that's sad.
Oh, that's good.
That was the tone
I
you
wish
said
we
it
had
with.
one here.
Oh yeah.
I wish we had one here. We don't.
But yeah, so it started on a bicycle,
Yeah.
and then I got a car right after I graduated,
Good.
which was good. First car I've ever had.
Nice.
Didn't have a license. I was like 24. And then I took that thing, and that was when I had like first met Michael Longfellow, who was on SNL, and he was on SNL when I first met him. And he was super nice, and he effectively said, "He's like, hey, dude, like if you ever, anytime you want to do comedy, you can just show up to my gigs, and I'll let you do 5 minutes."
No way.
Which is
Wow.
awesome. It was super nice,
Cool.
like really, really sweet of him. And
Because sorry to interrupt, so much of it I would imagine, especially in the beginning, is just getting reps,
Yeah,
right? Just
100%.
like stage time.
Yeah.
And that can't be too easy to come by. And so to have somebody like him go like, I got you whenever you want.
yeah,
That's a huge blessing.
yeah,
too,
it's very competitive. Especially the weird thing is it's competitive to get in front of a real audience. You can do open mics and get in front of other comedians.
Open micers, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
which is really beneficial, especially if you don't have much time experience on stage performing at all. But I had like from when I was a little kid, I was like a child opera singer, and then like I'd done a ton of like,
Really?
yeah,
Wait.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was-
Big
it
opera
was
scene
fun.
in Iowa.
Actually,
Really?
yeah, huge.
So it was the neighborhood was Slipknot and then
Obviously.
opera.
Yeah, it's totally extreme. Iowa polarizes. you.
Van, private jet.
Yeah, Slipknot,
Slipknot and
opera.
opera.
But like, so
Yeah.
I had a bunch of like on stage experience, and so for me, a lot more of it was this idea of like, is this funny to real people or not? Because
Right.
you can get
Yeah.
really good at performing for other comedians, and then you go on stage in front of like normal people, and they're like, "This guy is so weird."
Yeah, that's how it feels for us preaching every week.
Really?
Talk to each other.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, that's great, dude. You get on stage, like, oh no.
Yeah.
They hate
They
me.
hate
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
God.
yeah. There's a huge difference there, and so yeah, Longfellow was like a huge blessing. Felt super lucky for him to just give me even 5 minutes. Right, most of it was not paid. Right, a lot of it was not paid, and then sometimes he'd be able to like put me in a host spot or like feature, and then I ended up featuring for him more, and then you start making money doing it. But yeah,
Learning how to entertain in 5 minutes. There's a craft to that, I would imagine.
Yeah. The only time I've ever actually bombed was doing that for someone that I really liked, Dusty Slay. I met him in Nashville, and he was like, "Yeah, you can do it." So I went and did a guest spot with him in Des Moines, Iowa,
Yeah.
and then it was bad.
like you actually bombed, or it just wasn't as good as you wanted it.
It wasn't as good as I wanted. Like
Okay,
there
okay.
was, I guess, a true bomb is like no one laughs, it's horrible,
Yeah.
and they hate you.
Yeah.
And it was more so they were like,
They were neutral.
fine, you know, like you get off stage and no one's like, "Good
All right,
job,
kid. Yeah,
Everyone's
yeah,
kinda like,
yeah.
You did it.
yeah."
How do
And that's
you think
literally
it
what he
went?
said.
You doing okay?
I got, yeah, I
They
got.
come, are you doing okay? Yeah. Until you asked me that question.
Not anymore.
I thought I was doing great.
Do you need to talk to somebody?
Had
or
that happen
anything?
about a month ago. Hey, you doing
But
okay?
Dusty's a great guy.
Like, yeah.
I was.
I was.
My
Yeah,
wife asks
yeah.
me that like every day.
Yeah.
What's wrong? Are you okay? Like, do I just look bad? Or what?
Are you sick?
I'm
You
just,
have a cold?
I'm just standing.
Yeah.
That's all I was
I'm
doing.
looking at something.
Do you have norovirus? No, I feel great.
Okay,
Oh, you look like you have norovirus.
I've got some more stuff I want to talk about, but we've got to pause here because the favorite segment of our podcast, which we didn't get to do at South by Southwest, is called Questions with Kayla. And
Yeah,
Kayla-
what's up?
If we don't do this, everybody's
Did you know
gonna
we were
riot.
born the same year?
Yes, it has blown my
so
mind
crazy.
all day. If you had to guess what happens during the segment Questions with Kayla, what do you think?
I would guess that she asks you guys questions.
Right.
He's got a
Gee,
master's
everybody.
degree.
Yeah, in
Put it
public
to good
policy
work.
right there.
Public policy.
Wow.
Well, that's the public policy here.
Yeah.
So today, Kayla is going to ask questions. I don't know if you have to reframe your questions now, knowing that it's pronounced G.
Yeah.
Instead of
Right.
Gee.
Yeah.
I can't. Maybe Zach introduced you as Donald.
It could have
But
been.
now
I
I
mean,
can't remember
ghee
which
is
one's right.
super, like,
Ghee.
everyone says that.
Isn't that what they make hummus from or something?
ghee?
Or it's like a butter.
Ghee is
Butter.
animal fat. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Isn't it?
People are obsessed with it. I cooked this in
Yeah.
beef.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've
All right,
always
go ahead.
said
I
ghee.
still use, I can't believe it's not butter.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I'm way behind the curve.
I think I bought a tub of ghee like 2 years ago, still in the back of the fridge. Because I tried it once. I'm like, this isn't as good as butter.
Some
you tried
podcaster said you should do it.
But G is better than ghee.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a great letter in the alphabet.
Ask him some questions.
All right.
Let's find some stuff out.
Here we go. If you had to have a walk-up song for you doing your comedy, what song would it be?
Randy Newman, You've Got a Friend.
You
Great
got
Toy
a
Story.
friend.
Every time.
Have you walked
But
up to that
why?
before?
Every time.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. I once walked
That's
up.
one.
Phenomenal.
I once walked up to, I did this show in Atlanta, Nimesh Patel, if you know him, incredible comedian. Again, super nice to me. I did this way too early and I was bad, but I walked up in front of 3,000 people wearing just the most like white boy outfit ever, just like khakis and a button up, to Childish Gambino sweatpants.
Nice.
And that was probably the biggest laugh of the set.
Downhill from there.
Yeah. But
Yes, I get it.
yeah.
Randy Newman. That's a great answer.
Yeah, why that
What a
song?
great walk-up song.
It just feels, it's like a good vibe.
It is
know?
a good vibe.
Also, like me doing comedy in general at a comedy club is mildly, if you don't recognize the sort of like juxtaposition from most of the other comedians,
Yeah.
it's weird anyway. And so just like fully embracing like the sort of youth group vibe I give off.
Yeah.
It works great. It's
I
like
love
almost refreshing. Like
That's
sometimes you'll
funny.
see audience members be like, like,
This guy.
yeah,
Like, we're just gonna have some fun. We're gonna hang out. This is gonna be fun.
This is non-threatening.
That's good. Are you more of a Buzz or Woody guy?
Woody for sure.
Okay.
yeah.
I relate to him on an intellectual level.
Master's degree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't
He's
know
probably from
anything.
Iowa.
Yeah. I bet he is.
Are there like
You know, John Wayne is from Iowa and he's based off John Wayne. So I think so.
Really?
Wow.
I made all that up, but
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
I guess I
Just
didn't
say
know
it
that.
confidently.
John Wayne is from Iowa though.
I wonder where they move in the first Toy Story movie. Because the whole premise that they're moving. I feel like it could be in Iowa.
Hey, I mean, yeah.
Toy Story was actually
You go to
based in
anywhere.
Iowa. I don't know if you knew that.
Really?
What's Andy's last name? Do you know that?
Cohen?
Andy Stanley from Andrew Stanley from South
Oh,
Africa.
yeah,
of course. Andrew Stanley could have been the kid Andy from Toy Story.
He totally could
Yeah, he
actually.
could've.
Yeah. Yeah, they're both homeschooled for sure.
That's good. All right, Kayla, hit him with another one.
Well, surprisingly, I was going to ask you a question. If you could be in any animated movie, what movie would you be in and why? So that's
Be
kind of
Buzz
funny.
Lightyear in Toy Story.
Cool. Animated
Sid.
movie.
Like if you're the voice of the character or you're actually in the
You're in it.
like it
live
becomes
in
your
that
reality.
reality?
Yeah, you're in that
Oh.
reality.
Treasure Planet.
Oh.
What's that?
You've never seen that?
No.
I haven't either.
How are we the same age and you've never seen? That's the greatest movie of all
I've never
time.
even
I'm not
heard of
even
it.
kidding you.
Treasure Planet?
Have you seen Atlantis? The one in the submarine where they go down?
I know the concept. I've been to the hotel.
You went to the hotel last year.
I don't know. There's a series of like Disney movies that came out that were like
I know what they are. I've
they
never seen
weren't
them.
big hits
Yeah.
like Toy Story, but they're incredible.
Treasure Planet.
It's kind of giving off like
Mhm.
Rescuers Down Under.
they're on like a sea.
Yeah, it's literally Treasure Island, like the old.
What'd you say?
That's what they're giving.
they're on like a sea.
It's giving off they're on like a sea
If
vibe.
space was the ocean,
Oh,
do,
man.
Space, actually.
do you know the
Treasure Planet.
The
That's
story-
Treasure Island.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
though.
You were thinking of Treasure Island.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's
They're on a
based off
sea
of
in
that. It's literally just Treasure Island in
I was trying to
space.
think of what it
Okay.
was.
What is your answer?
Yeah,
I want to know you guys.
Wow. I mean, probably maybe Finding Nemo because then I could live in the ocean.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
which one would you be? Which character?
The turtle.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's
That's
great.
Cat Crush.
That's actually a really
It's a
good
great
answer.
answer. Moana.
Yeah.
You'd be Moana.
I'd be Maui from Moana.
Learned a lot about you
I'd be
today, Doug.
Moana.
Come back to that.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later.
Cut the
Do you have
mic
any-
real
do you have
quick.
any follow-up comments? Donald G.
Which island would you be on?
Kauai.
There you go.
For sure.
Yeah.
Ryan,
I was gonna say Lilo and Stitch, even though I've never seen it, just because I feel like it was from Hawaii.
they're making a live action one.
Yeah. There.
Would you
Kind
be
of live action.
Lilo
'cause
or
it's not
Stitch?
real
Lilo.
Stitch.
Lilo?
For sure.
Nice.
I
Is
think
that
which
the-
one is
no,
Lilo?
the alien is
Alien to
Stitch.
Stitch.
Oh, Stitch then.
Lilo is the small
I
Hawaiian
couldn't have gotten
girl.
those more wrong.
Both chose
Stitch.
Pacific Island girls.
Yeah.
All right.
What is going on in this room?
Also, would love to be Aladdin. You got a magic
Ooh,
carpet and a
yeah.
genie. So honorary
Jasmine,
mention.
Jasmine would
She was a childhood crush of mine.
Man,
I'll tell you
yeah,
that.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're like, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, I actually wanted to be Jasmine.
Had a poster of Jasmine on my wall. Oh, how I wanted to be Jasmine.
It wasn't on his wall. It was actually in his mirror. He's just, it was his daily affirmations.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Next question.
Okay.
I was going to reference a comedy thing that we cannot talk about on
That
this
was one of my
podcast.
first crushes. I've got a story about I can't tell it. I'll tell you guys after.
Okay. All right. Perfect. We'll just let our imagination
First two
go.
childhood crushes. Let's each go. Mine were Jasmine and Aunt Becky from Full House.
Yeah.
Lori Loughlin, pre-college admission scam.
Topanga from Boy Meets World
Ah.
and Princess Leia.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
I mean, Aunt Becky.
You said Jasmine.
Aunt Becky. And then
Yeah.
and then Rachel from Friends.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to watch TV or use the internet, so mine were real people.
Good for you.
Fair. That's fair.
So when did you see Treasure Island?
Planet.
I was
Treasure
probably
Planet.
like a teenager in a movie theater.
Wow.
It came out in 2002.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Like I was like probably, I don't know, close to a teenager, in a movie theater.
Kind of like an Alamo rerun type deal.
Yeah. Iowa is a little behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
with
just
the-
got Wi-Fi.
yeah, actually. Yeah.
Hence,
There's
they've
some-
always had Slipknot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got another question?
I do. All right.
Great.
Who is your favorite comedian?
Mm, that's a great question. I mean, I feel like there's sort of a top 5 for me that
That's
kind of
fine.
circle around. Obviously, Nate Bargatze, huge influence.
Of course.
Yeah.
Huge fan. I've got to meet him a couple times and like become friends with. It's just some people on his team in Nashville, and I really admire everything
He's
about.
incredible.
Yeah, what
Now
they're
he's going to
doing.
do some acting.
Yeah, they're building that out, which is really cool.
He seems like such a nice guy.
Yeah.
Friend of the show.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Adrian from
Not our
his-
show, but others' shows.
friend of a show.
Friend of
I know he's a friend. He's a friend of Dave Ramsey's show.
Yeah.
They did
Yeah,
an
that's
episode
true.
together that was wild.
Amazing.
His whole team, like his sister Abigail, is like has been a huge like building that thing, and Adrian in Nashville. So yeah, huge fan of them and just their whole thing. John Mulaney was a huge influence for me.
Mhm.
Like obviously in some ways not.
He's hilarious.
Yeah, he's
Oh,
so
so
funny.
funny, man.
Great in
Yeah.
the Bear as
And
well.
he's like feels like sort of like the last like presentational comedian in a way, where like comedy has gotten very introspective. I think because a lot of times like people consume comedy in a different way where they consume it alone,
Yeah.
right? Which is a very different experience than watching a performance. And John Mulaney is so good at the performance.
He had a special years ago called New in Town.
Yes, yeah, I've listened to that probably 30 times.
I just thought was so good.
Yeah.
man. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can nerd out about that forever.
He's great. I love his show too. I think it's
Yeah.
very funny.
Yeah,
Um,
he's very funny.
Bo Burnham, huge influence musically, musical comedy.
Yeah.
Tim mentioned
Yep,
Flight of
yep.
the Conchords, Stephen
Yeah.
Lynch.
Oh, dude,
Flight of the
Flight of the
Conchords.
Conchords.
yeah, they're the best.
So underrated.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Not in New Zealand, but here.
Yeah.
yeah.
Jermaine, he's the voice of the crab in Moana.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
He was in.
His voice is incredible.
Yeah.
Jermaine was in.
Yeah.
That's very
Avatar.
funny.
He
What?
was?
Yeah, he was in Avatar 2. I remember watching that in theaters, and I was like, that dude sang
sounds Flight of the
the hottest girl in the room.
Yeah.
you know,
So
like
good.
yeah, part-time model.
That's right.
Part-time model.
Part-time
Yeah,
model.
yeah.
Yeah.
The most
Oh,
beautiful
dude.
girl in the room,
That's what it
depending
is.
on the room.
Yeah, yeah,
Depending on the room.
yeah. And
you
then
could be
just
you could be a part-time model.
to see
You
him in
could
a
be
James Cameron.
waitress.
yeah.
Yeah, and James Cameron's like, we
Yeah.
got to get that guy.
Yeah.
He should be an Avatar guy.
That's
Uh-huh.
wild,
Perfect.
dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Bo Burnham with the musical influence. I would
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah, and the songs that are like good.
Yeah.
Like I'll just listen to his songs because they're good.
right.
Yeah, that's probably the top 5
That's
for
great.
me.
That's a good list.
Yeah.
Way to go.
A lot of overlap.
And then I guess I should also big influence is Michael Longfellow and Nimesh Patel, simply
Yeah.
because I've like listened to their acts so many times.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like I probably even like I've only opened for Nimesh very few number of times, and then Michael Longfellow a decent number. But like hearing their act like 40 times, it just seeps in, and like their
Yeah.
style of comedy. And yeah, I think Longfellow is one of the funniest guys around for sure.
I would imagine like when we go to a conference and we see like a preacher who is really good at their craft, we're just like nerding out on it and taking notes and like watching everything that they do.
Yeah,
Do you do the same thing when you're
for sure.
watch those guys?
100%. And it is interesting, like the people you see do something first are the people in your mind who like invented it for you in some ways, right? Where like
Correct,
maybe it
yeah.
existed for a long time before.
Right.
And so I think that's where it comes from for me of like Longfellow and like Nimesh, because like they were super, super early on, like the first year and a half of doing comedy. And so Nimesh was the first person I ever saw do what it felt like crowd work into bits that were like, there's no way this is crowd work back into crowd work. And it was this seamless flow. I was like, man, like where does this start and end? And it feels so funny and it feels like mastery. He's the first person I ever saw do that. And there's so many people who've done that in the past, but like he does it incredibly well. And so for me, he's always in my mind of like, oh, like how do you get to that level?
Yeah.
And
That's
then
cool.
Longfellow with this sort of like absurdist jokes that are just very, it's like almost like getting to step into his mind, right? That was kind of the first time I ever saw that over and over and over.
That's cool.
So yeah, that's kind of how it exists.
So cool, man.
Do you watch playback of yourself to
100%.
get better? Yeah.
It's the worst thing in the world.
Uh-huh.
It's
tough.
I
It's
hate it
awful.
so much.
Yeah.
Because you can do a show that you're like, wow, I killed it.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was awesome. And you watch back, you're like,
You're like, no.
Not that great.
yeah.
Felt good when I was there.
Yeah. But it's a fast way to improve though.
Yes.
It's so painful though.
It's
Yeah.
painful, man.
Yeah.
Mine's always, my cadence is always so much slower when I listen to it. In my mind, I'm like, no, I crushed that. I like kept up. And then I listened to it. I'm like, Ryan, get to your point.
Yeah.
What are you
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah.
Why is this story 5 minutes long?
Do you guys like take influence from comedians? Because I feel like
Oh,
there's
yeah.
a ton of overlap.
All the time, man.
They're some of the best probably workshopping is after watching a comedian.
Yeah.
More than a pastor. Because it's when I think when you're watching it, for me at least, when I'm watching a pastor, I'm thinking more about his content than his delivery. But with
Yeah.
a comedian, it's like, well, I'm not going to use the same content, obviously, but
Yeah.
how he is bringing points full circle and making things hit for the audience, the craft of it is very,
Yeah.
very helpful.
Something I've thought about that I've never seen really pastors do. Like I go to church in Iowa at Lutheran Church of Hope. Mike Householder, great, like big fan of what he does. But I've never really seen pastors use callbacks effectively. And that's like one of the most interesting, funniest tricks
Yes.
that is very doable if you are actually writing. Right. If you're a good writer, which I feel like a lot of pastors like you guys,
Yeah.
like fantastic writers. And I feel like that's something that's sort of an untapped thing.
It is.
That's cool.
When a comedy show ends with a callback to something that you never would have seen coming,
It's the
it
best.
just brings the house down.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna try to do that in every sermon
Yeah.
now.
I'm gonna do that this weekend.
Which takes us back to Mark chapter 2.
And then drop the mic.
You got a friend.
Scott.
You did it.
There it is.
That's good.
Okay, so
Perfect. That's perfect.
Thank you, man. Yeah, but
incredible.
yes, to answer your question, the one guy who I feel like is one of the, in my opinion, greatest communicators on the planet is Judah Smith, pastor of Church Home, and basically a stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
But that guy's cadence, and he I think he gives a lot more messages now, and he just does almost no preparation, just maybe some prayer and some Bible study, and then he takes a little notebook of some stuff he's jotted down that he doesn't even look at. He stands in front of a camera and he can talk for an hour.
Yeah.
But he used to, like, pre-COVID, there was more conferences, and I feel like he had fewer messages he maybe put more time into. But it's some of the best communicating I have ever heard. And I'll go back and listen to his archives from like 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And to me, that is, I don't know, it's
really good.
art. It
Yeah.
really, that's when preaching becomes a craft.
Yeah.
Truly, because the content is great, but it also keeps, we talk about like Gen Z and how much you have to work to keep people's attention when you're giving a sermon,
Right.
Because you're trying to give them this content,
Yeah.
but it's like every 9 seconds you have to like re-grab their attention
Yeah. Yeah.
in different ways.
Well, and
And-
people
yeah.
there, you think of like the uptight Christian that goes to church, like, I don't know why we need these stories and like
Yeah.
laughing, like just read the Bible. It's like, well, this is actually how Jesus preached.
Right.
He told stories to
Yeah.
make things make sense to people. Like
He was
he
a
brought it to
compelling-
life. Very
Yeah.
much how you're talking about John Mulaney. Those two guys get compared a lot.
Jesus
But,
and
like,
Mulaney.
he-
Jesus and John.
He read the room and was going, how can I get this kingdom concept to them in a way that they'll actually connect with it versus like just reading a script.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
So-
people will tell a story again. Right.
Yeah.
There's no way
Right.
any message would have ever spread if it was like, do this.
No.
Right.
It's all story.
How do you
based.
bring
Yeah.
it to
That's what
life
we
for them?
did the very first time we ever preached. This was back in 2011. We were interning at a youth group, this little youth group in Laguna Beach at the church was called Little Church by the Sea. It's just
That's
this,
cute.
it's awesome. It's just
Yeah.
this
Very
beach
charming.
town,
I like that, yeah.
charming church. But I think the first time I preached there was to middle schoolers. It's either high schoolers or middle schoolers. So there's 40 of them in this room. They'd rather be surfing or smoking weed or hanging out, but their parents make them come to church,
Yeah.
come to youth group. And this was like a year or two into faith for us. And when you preach for your first time, you basically take everything that you've learned in the last 2 years and you try to put it into one sermon because you're like, this is all important and these high schoolers need to know everything.
Yeah.
And I preached at youth group for 52 minutes with
So
no
good.
funny stories because it was all, well, the word of God should be sufficient.
Yeah.
And this is the Holy Spirit's gonna communicate.
So
So we don't need stories. You don't need fancy metaphors.
The Holy Spirit's like,
That's
this
for-
guy's a little uptight.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And I remember like the whole time I'm like, I don't know and then I finished and I walked to the back of the room and you were like, hey, did you know that was 52 minutes?
Yeah, I didn't have much
So I
room to
felt
talk.
so bad though. I was like,
I'm so sorry.
I learned
guys.
a lesson.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
get back up and apologize to
Yeah.
these kids.
It's
They're
like-
not gonna guarantee you they don't remember any of that.
It's
But
like they're gonna remember maybe one thing.
Uh-huh.
And if I try to say too many things, they're gonna remember no thing.
None of them.
The other interesting thing with that too is like I feel this all the time. Like people typically, especially with comedians, will not remember anything you say. They only remember how you make them feel.
Yeah.
Huh.
And
Yeah, that's interesting.
I think that's true for whether it's church, whether it's something. Maybe take away one thing, and that was a sort of breakthrough for me too, where it's like they're not going to remember your jokes. Like even like Nate Bargatze, right? Like we all love his comedy.
Of course.
Can we name one or two jokes of his? Like, I don't really remember what he talked about. I just remember it was hilarious.
That's funny.
Maybe
Yeah.
a whipped cream cup joke. That was a great joke. Big fan.
That was amazing.
But like, I've probably watched 40 hours, like over and over and over. And I don't even remember it, but I do remember exactly how it made me feel. And comedy is that exact same way where it's like, people will come back, not because they necessarily remember a joke or a thing you said or did, but how you made them feel. And I feel like church is a really similar thing where they might take away one thing, but that the emotion you evoke in that person is what brings them back and plugs into a community, and then they dive in and deeper. Like that's how
That's
I got
really interesting.
got to
Yeah.
youth group.
The goal, I guess, is in those terms, like to open their heart to what God's trying to say to them.
Exactly,
They're not
yeah.
going to remember your 5 points from your sermon, but they will remember how God moved in their life that day because they were opened up to it. by-
I
Exactly.
wonder how it made those kids feel. Whenever they felt
tired,
that night.
Not
bored,
good, Doug.
tired, bored, angry. As a man of faith in the world of comedy,
Uh-huh.
do you get? We talked a little bit about this South by Southwest, but do you get mocked for your faith or questioned about your faith, or does that come up a lot for people? Because it seems from the outside like I'm all the time seeing people sending clips like this comedian's talking about Jesus, this comedian's Joe Rogan's going to become a Christian, like that kind of
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
Do you have more people asking you about it, or do you hear comedy that makes fun of it and then they kind of look at you like, oh, sorry, dude?
No, they'll never apologize. That's for sure.
Okay.
I've never seen that. I think typically it depends on sort of where the environment you're in. In an open mic environment, that was really tough, to be honest. Like that was probably the hardest part of my career or whatever I'm doing in comedy. Because you're around.
The fact that you put career in
Yeah,
quotes,
yeah.
parentheses.
I mean, give me 5 years and then I
thing
might
you're
call it a career.
Dedicating your life to it.
Yeah.
Ethan, is this a career?
As my family likes to say, his experiment.
Hey, yeah.
Um,
And just remember, if it doesn't work out, you can always call Ethan and get your job back.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I still don't know if we're talking about me because it doesn't seem like there's another prominent Ethan in his life at this
Dude,
point.
this is crazy. I'm actually, I'm gonna look
Taylor,
at my own
can you look
LinkedIn.
up like his info on LinkedIn or something and see if you can find out?
Logged into LinkedIn
Just
in a while.
Google
Remember, I was
Ethan
still looking
manager.
for a job.
Yeah.
I'll have faith in
Ethan
it.
50.
But at the beginning, very much so. Like there are a ton of jokes. People like also when you're at the beginning, right? No one is successful, or no one has any sort of like stack of achievements or experience to be like confident in what they're doing. And so you get a lot more of the sort of petty kind of arguments or jokes or people jockeying for position or like wanting to satisfy a sense of ego in comedy because again, it's one of those weird things where it's both people's dream and their like attempted profession. And so that mix, I think, really attracts, especially at the beginning, a lot of people who struggle with ego, pride, vanity, whatever, like myself included, right? Like there's a ton of the drive to do it originally probably came from those things. And so I would get a lot of that, a ton of that early on. And then I think
like people making fun of you as the Christian guy in the room.
Yeah, 100%. As a Christian, or even just like being nice, or like other things, you know,
This
like
loser, this guy is kind to people.
Because you're a bit of an easy target, right?
Sure.
If you're open and like more on the lighter side of comedy or whatever, right? And you don't have friends because you go to open mic alone. You know, I went with another friend of mine, Patrick O'Malley, which was great, but like, that was probably the hardest time and the time where I'd feel that the most. And definitely, you could also feel people just kind of talking behind your back or like whatever. And plenty of it was like, oh yeah, like not very pro Christian behavior or like I don't even know if it was about faith, but just like the vibe, right? Of being attempting to be nice and kind and whatever in an environment like that was not easy. And then I think as I like got around people who had a bit more experience and like were better comedians and whatever, comedians typically are very open and interested, right? Because they observe, learn, and then make fun of it. So like I've rarely now do I get super like judgmental things from others, but more so good questions and interesting questions. But yeah, at the beginning, definitely.
When did you ever have you ever fired back? Like about faith stuff?
Oh yeah, all the time. Like I mean, I love talking about it. I think it's a great time because like the other interesting thing too is like if people are coming at you or you're in a discussion in a green room or whatever, very rarely do they expect you to actually know what you're talking about because a lot of people in faith, like the fundamental assumption of faith is very different than the fundamental assumption of like logic, right? And so if they very rarely do people also dive deep into like that. And so if you can take people down through that and it's like, okay, well, why do you believe in this set of things that you believe in? You've never seen the experiments. You've never done any science yourself. You've never done any of these things, followed the scientific method, but you choose to believe in that because it's leading to outcomes in your life that you enjoy and appreciate. And everyone else tells you should. That's what it comes to with every comedian because very few comedians are like actually science-based to practice it. And so when you draw it to that level, that's even more surface level than someone being like, I feel like this is true. Right. And then if you go a level deeper and then actually question the fundamental assumptions of both viewpoints, it's like you're making assumptions and producing knowledge in this way. And faith makes assumptions and produces knowledge in another way. And you can critique it all you want, but it comes down to both times you're making a fundamental assumption. And once you get to that point, it's pretty over.
So
I mean,
good,
you
man.
can turn it back and be like, well, let's talk about what you believe. Like you can make fun of me for being
100%.
Christian, but what do you believe about all this? And probably have some fun with that.
And nihilism is way less fun. You know,
Dude,
like
it's so depressing. If you really think about it.
100%.
That's why I feel like we're going to continue to see more and more comedians come to faith.
100%.
We were talking about this morning. It's just you guys are so smart. You're too smart. That's why you're comedians, because you know how to observe and you know how to think and you know how to ask all these questions.
Mind.
And I just believe that journey of asking questions will ultimately lead you to truth, which is why my hypothesis is more and more comedians, the more that everybody seeks and asks these questions, they're going to end up at faith. And
I think it will go. I think exactly what you're saying is true, and it will go to the extremes where people either be like, yeah, I am fully involved in my faith, or they are fully not. Right? I think it will either go nihilism or faith.
Interesting.
Because again, you can come down to either one of those fundamental assumptions, and then you kind of pick one. Right.
Great.
And then it plays out in your life, and typically, I think you can kind of tell which one is better. But but you
Should
can
I do the one with all the hope in the world or none of the hope in the world?
And the other thing too is funny. Like as I was doing comedy has pushed me pursuing a career that's not stable and not easy, and I have very little control in terms of like the worldly success of. Pushed me very much more into faith. And it's interesting too when you're around comedians who are successful or whatever, and but they are very nihilistic. And you're like, well, why did you do comedy? Like why? Right? Because there's zero logical reason like to do this. It does not make sense. And there are so many points in this journey where you should have chosen to not. But you had faith in something. Maybe it was faith in a dream, faith in yourself, whatever. But pretty much every creative person exhibits a really high level of faith or delusion, right?
Sure.
It kind of depends. But that's always an interesting conversation too, because it's like faith isn't always just about God, right? You can have faith in a lot of things.
Yeah, you can show them that you actually don't believe in nothing
Yeah.
going on here. It's not all logical to you.
Yeah.
Mm,
I had an
that's
interesting
true.
conversation with one of my best friends who is very proudly agnostic atheist, almost to a comical extent.
Which is contradictory.
Yeah.
It's like I don't want to commit fully.
Yeah. Actually, you guys met him. Chase, you remember Chase?
Chase is
My boy,
awesome.
dude. Chase is the
Heck yeah.
best.
Love
I love
Chase.
Chase. And me and our other best friend have been slowly trying to convert him, but it hasn't worked. But we had a conversation a while back about faith because he moved to New York City. And he didn't have a job, had like a certain amount of savings, and through conversations we had, I was like, I think you should do it. Go and like believe it will work. Do everything you can, and I think it will work. And he kind of had that same conclusion. Did it, and it led to an interesting conversation about faith because I was like, maybe you don't have faith in God, but you did have faith in something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
You had faith in maybe community or faith in like the city or the universe to give you something after you take that step.
Mm-hmm.
And that was an interesting sort of breakthrough. It was like, yeah, man, I guess like that is an example of faith, but not Jesus, you know?
Yeah, totally.
And, but no, and he's also incredibly intelligent. And
Yeah.
my best conversations about faith have been with him.
That's
cool.
fascinating, man. Community seems like the right word. I love hanging out at comedy clubs
Yeah.
because I always just feel like it's almost church.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like obviously it's missing the faith component
Yeah.
of it, but the community aspect is there.
Yeah.
And it's everybody after a long day coming together for a common purpose, which is to be in the same room and laugh together.
Yeah.
Right. And dream at some level that there's hope for the future and a better way forward.
Yeah.
And so I love sitting in the back of a comedy club going like, it's so close. And it has its own magic in and of itself. I'm not trying to say like comedy has to be church by any means.
Yeah. Yeah.
It stands on its own. And every time I look around, I'm just like, and this could be something like so much cooler.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think that's the fun thing of like when you find comedians or people who sort of can take it to that next step, because there are comics who involve faith in what they do. And I think the vast majority of things that are that cool typically are some portion of what church or faith provides, right? Whether it's music or comedy, right? It's just like
Fascinating.
or storytelling, right? The greatest everyone's favorite story is a version of the New Testament, right?
For sure.
Whether
Dude,
it's Star Wars or whatever. Right?
That's what do people show up to on a Friday night in Austin? They go to concerts, they go to see music, they go to see comedy, they go to see storytelling.
Or a movie.
It's like,
Or
or a
go try
movie.
to find
It's all the stuff,
some sort of love, quote unquote, like relationship.
Yeah.
it's all the church stuff. It's all the stuff Jesus was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's really interesting.
I felt that more and more. Like the most successful comedians, entertainers in any way, create and use a lot of the things that make church so beautiful and effective in growth and bringing people together in their art or in their comedy, film, whatever.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's for a beautiful purpose, sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
But a lot of the elements seem fundamentally the same,
Yeah.
which is interesting.
Because people show up looking for escapism, and what they leave with is hope of a better
Exactly.
future.
Yeah.
And that's what, when it's done well, comedy does
Yeah.
really well.
Yeah. And I had a conversation about that with a guy in a band that I was opening for, about that of like, can you bring people, when people come in, do they leave more hopeful, more joyful, happier, and like on a fundamental level than they came in? And that's like kind of where I'm trying to go with comedy.
Yeah.
Which is
That's so
needed because
awesome,
I
man.
think a lot of comedy people walk out like, oh, I need to take a shower.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
like, it's
yeah.
just-
or like, oh, the world's falling apart.
Someone just puts
Yeah.
something on me that I didn't need to hear. Like,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of
Yeah.
that when it gets real nihilistic or dark or sexual or whatever, where you're like,
Yeah.
we don't need all that. Like,
Yeah.
I came here to laugh and actually try to feel some joy.
Yeah. And have a good time.
And that's why we need people like you in that
Yeah,
world.
man.
I was asking about the faith thing. I remember the first time we talked, I was asking you a little bit about like being a Christian in that world. And, you know, unfortunately, I think a lot of people think if you're intelligent, then how could you be a person of faith?
Yeah.
Which is quite the opposite of reality. I think to be highly intelligent leads you to realize there is something beyond my logic. But you made the joke and we were talking about somebody in your life that was like kind of messing with you about faith. And you're like, okay, sure, I get like my faith sounds crazy to you, but you believe in rocks.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I just feel like there's
Yeah.
a little bit of need for some fire back that
Yeah.
can kind of make people like, but what do I believe? Like I can take shots at that person's beliefs, but
Yeah.
how do I think this
Yeah, it
is
was-
such a Loctite?
It was
Like,
a girl I was going on dates with, and she like was like really into crystals.
Yeah.
And then was coming at me for like faith and whatever. She's like, but it's just like not logical. And I'm like, so quartz is? Like, how is that any more logical? That's way less logical than believing in the Bible.
this amethyst.
Yeah.
Incredible.
So good,
Yeah,
man.
the fact that we're here, that life is real,
Yeah.
is what's weird. Like, so every explanation for it is going to sound crazy
Yeah.
because this is crazy that
Right.
we're even here.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, like the poking fun of like, well, yeah, but say what you believe out loud right
Yes,
now.
yes.
Yeah,
I want you to
yeah,
say
yeah.
everything you believe
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
so that you can hear yourself say
That's
it.
so
It's a good
funny.
exercise.
Yeah, it is.
Which has been amazing. We had baptism weekend just recently, and every single time we have a few testimonies that are New Agers
Mm-hmm.
who finally got confronted with like, what do I actually believe and where's this led me, and had to like process it out and go, this has become so confusing, and there's infinite different things I have to do and better myself and all this kind of stuff. And then the simplicity of the gospel.
Yeah.
Of Christ and Christ alone, like, is this breakthrough moment where they realize, like, that's what I've been looking for. That's all I want. That's all I need. And that's the only way I can be saved.
Yeah.
And that's happening more and more. So I imagine there will be a lot of cool conversations for you as a guy that's known. It's like, this is a man of faith here, but he's in a world where you don't expect to meet as many of those types of
Right.
people
Yeah.
that will come to you like, well, let's process this out. What do you believe? What do I believe? Let's talk about this.
Yeah, and dude, like you were saying earlier too, the idea of, I do think more comedians and creative people will pursue faith because like you kind of have to.
Yeah.
Like you can't do it. Like I remember when I first started doing comedy and then started like a real job, and just that whole thing in my mind, I was like, man, like what am I meant to do? And that really pushed me to be like, okay, like actually think about that, pray about it.
Yeah.
Because you can't do this without faith. Like I don't think I could do it without it.
Yeah.
How do you
Gosh.
stay grounded in your faith? Your life seems like a little bit of a whirlwind. You're texting me at
Yeah.
4:30 in the morning to hang out.
You're throwing your
Uh,
phone through walls.
Traveling everywhere, jumping on beds,
Yeah.
hotels.
You don't even have a van. Like,
Yeah, dude, that is a huge question. I mean, I have my Bible that I just like have in my bag, take it everywhere and read it. Try to read it every day. I was doing 75 hard and then failed, but my book reading was the Bible.
Nice.
I made it through Genesis.
Hey.
It's a long book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of names. A lot of
Oh,
names.
yeah.
A lot of names and some.
I was working on
Tough stories.
so many jokes out of that. We can go through them later if you want. I have like this whole like Genesis jokes. Just
That's funny.
But one of them I thought about is like naming your kid after a Christian person in the Bible. Like you gotta be real careful
Yeah.
because like naming your kid Leia, like
Oh, yeah.
at least in Genesis, she's like the ugly one.
yeah.
You know, you're just naming your kid the ugly and fertile one.
Yeah, you
know?
gotta tell.
That's wild.
Probably,
you gotta
probably go with
biblical list of-
Rachel.
Yeah,
If you're gonna
exactly.
grab from a biblical list of names, read the
You
story.
named both your girls
Yeah.
Rachel and,
About the
and Leah.
person.
Yeah,
Oh my
100%.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it tracks every Leia I know. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Not Princess Leia.
No.
That's true. Thanks,
But-
guys.
Yeah. But
That was one of my original crushes too.
Yeah, Ryan already said that.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Thanks for listening, man.
I'll
Being
listen.
an active listener.
he's thinking about his own.
Yeah.
I was thinking about Jasmine.
Think about Jasmine.
But I also there's a really cool thing with again Steve Bertrand. Shout out Steve.
Second shout out to Steve on
Yeah,
this podcast.
He puts together like every Thursday, it's like a Zoom call at like 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. A bunch of typically like artists, actors, comedians, producers, whatever, on a Zoom call to go through and talk about like some chapter of the Bible or something.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow,
And
cool.
so hop on a Zoom call where we are like literally last time I was like in Tacoma, Washington, like literally rolling out of my submarine bunk on a tour bus, like
That's
muted
cool.
so that I could like do this.
That's awesome.
But that is I actually talked with someone on the plane yesterday about this of like, where do you go to church if every weekend you're in a different city?
Yeah.
Right.
And Lutheran Church of Hope in Iowa, I go whenever I'm home. But yeah, that's been a really interesting thing.
You always come to Red Rocks, Austin.
Always
That's
Red
right.
Rocks Austin.
That's
every
right.
time
Come
you're
on.
here.
Yeah, literally every time. And then, but yeah, I also have like my best friends. Two of them are very rooted in their faith, and so that's been really beneficial because our conversations typically lead back to faith in some way,
Mhm.
or like keeping each other accountable, or like talking through the life that you're living. Because like obviously as a comedian, and then as you're more successful or in rooms with people who are more successful, because I'm not like a huge success, right? Like, but I have gotten to be around people who are very, very successful, and it can make living the life you want to live tough for sure. And like I was lucky, like growing up, I never had any alcohol or drugs or anything like that. So like I've been able to live a life that's pretty straight and narrow, to be honest. I'm really grateful for it. But it's super important to have the people around you in your life, keeping you accountable, having a group that you talk to, going to church, because otherwise, it would be very easy to not do that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's good. I think that's helpful for a lot of people because I tend to be like a structured person, and when my routine's going, and I have my time set, like, and everything's kind of in place, it feels like, okay, well, I'm good, pursuing my relationship with God because I have my reading time, my prayer time, and like all that. But then when you get out of rhythm,
I have no routine.
It can feel like, well, I'll wait till I'm back in rhythm. Well, most of life's kind of lived without a true rhythm all the time and structure. You have to adapt to it, and you're able to on the road have the same ingredients of you pray, you read your Bible, you have community around you, you show up to church whatever city you're in. Like you fight to keep those principles in place. And I think a lot of people, and I'm guilty of this in my life, let it go by the wayside the second things aren't organized and in my normal routine. But you live outside of routine and can do that. So
it's been weird to not have a routine for like 2 years.
I bet.
That's like been really odd.
Yeah.
And it is a sort of like maniacal pursuit of opportunity where it's like, this is not good balance for sure.
Yeah.
But it is in this time of my life, right? When you're 24, 25, 26,
man.
The need for balance is less than if you have kids or a significant other or that sort of thing. So trying to figure out how to do that.
Dude, it's so cool. You will look back on this season of your life. I know it's hectic right now, but I think you'll look back 10 years from now and be like, those were really sweet years as I was like really establishing my comedy career and just hustling and doing some shows that I wish I didn't have to do and getting on flights and riding my bike and all of that. Like, I think you're right where you're supposed to be.
I hope so. Yeah, we'll see.
I have two more things for you. You have your political alter ego.
Yes, Louis Laurent.
Louis.
Dude, what a great name.
Is there like a
Louis Laurent Guy? That's the middle name actually, Louis Guy Laurent.
Do you have like a vision for that? Is there like a motive behind why you're?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it started as literally like again, like not having access to the internet or TV or anything. Like I had no idea how to make content. I had no idea how to do stuff that was successful online. And I'd like done a tiny bit of stuff before, and some was successful, but not really. And I was like, this feels like a thing that I could do and experiment with for several months and try and make successful. And so that's how it started. And the vision behind it was like, can I make, because the world was so political at that time, right? And like, no matter what you believe, I think everyone agrees that like the level of division inspired by politics in the US is bad for everybody. Because pretty much everyone I would talk to would be like, 90% of people who voted for this person or 90% of people who voted for that person are good people.
Right.
There may be even more, maybe 99, I don't know. And so my thought was like, can I, what are you saying?
Sorry, keep going.
I was like, can I make comedy in a very political world that is inherently non-political?
Yeah.
And that's where Louis Laurent started of like, can I get into the room with the most powerful people and just be the dumbest person ever, right? Whether they're Democrats, Republicans, independents, libertarians, doesn't matter. And so it started with sketch. Like I got some friends of mine to like play characters, and very convincingly we filmed it at like a movie set, lights, everything. As if I was actually going and interviewing these people, and they started to go viral. And I was like, oh, like, okay. So I took everything off my Instagram and made this character, Louis Laurent. And then I went to Vivek Ramaswamy's presidential campaign event in Iowa. And like walked up to his campaign manager, and in my accent, I was like, I am Louis from France, and I would like to do an interview for Mr. Vivek for the French news. And she looked at me and was like, sure. Just let me in.
Running a pretty tight ship around here.
Yeah. And I like had a suit and a microphone, and I was trying to be convincing, but also dumb. And it's amazing. Like I've realized this. I lived in France for a year before I went to college.
Yeah.
And I realized when I
Yeah.
was there, you could get away with a lot if you had an accent.
Yeah.
Even you could be very intelligent, but people assume you are dumber
Yes.
because you have an accent.
And then you wouldn't mess with them.
And you wouldn't,
You have to be
yeah.
completely genuine.
Yes. And so I was like, is this funny thing? I was like, okay, how do I use that instead of people, like, instead of being bad, how do I use that to like be good
Funny.
or
Yeah,
opportunity to
yeah.
be funny? And so, yeah, they let me
So
in
funny.
and I made a whole like fake French website and everything. And so when they came up to me, they were like, hey, could you real quick, they thought about it. Could you real quick, like show us your work? Like we want to make sure you're real. I had that fake website, which was literally just CNN blurred out with block letters that just said content not available in your country. And the assistant looked at it and was like, perfect. Here's Vivek. And so then Vivek comes over and I was terrified. Like you were talking about earlier, like genuinely, I think this has made me much less scared of doing comedy in front of crowds.
Yeah.
Because doing this felt like I was like a spy. I could get arrested. I didn't know what was going to happen. I had no idea. And so Vivek comes over and I asked him, I was like, I'm going to hit him with the hardest question I can because I think I'm going to get kicked out eventually and I want to get on tape. And so I was like, Mr. Ramaswamy, I know you are a big fan of the reverse racism. And I was wondering, my flight to Atlanta, I flew to Atlanta. My flight attendant was black. And she said to me, you have a nice white butt. Is that what you mean by reverse racism? He like looked, he was like, what? Sorry, what? And then he gave a legitimate answer.
Oh, poor guy.
We have the film of like the
my
Fox News,
gosh.
CNN, MSNBC reporters just laughing so hard because they're like, wait, like this is real, right?
Is this guy serious?
And then that went viral. And I kept putting out like sort of sketch stuff around this character as a legitimate reporter. And the libertarians, stop me if this is going on too long, but
No.
the Libertarian National Convention saw one of the Instagram reels that was viral and reached out direct. And they were like, hey, Louis, would you ever want to come speak at our national convention?
Dude, getting a note and it's directed to your fake name
Is crazy.
has just got to be so cool.
It was crazy. And I like didn't think it was real for a minute. And then I looked it up and it came from the director of the convention. And I was like, whoa. And so I was like, well, like who else is going to be speaking at this? And they're like, well, it'll be you on Friday and Donald J. Trump on Saturday. And we'll pay you. And I was like, I will do this for free. And so I went in May, flew to DC, and they paid for me to fly there, an assistant, like photographer guy, and a hotel, everything.
Okay, so when you got a flight,
Yeah.
what name are you using?
I used my actual name. And
Okay.
it's the one reason I chose Louis as my name is because my middle name is Lewis.
Got it. Okay.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And so one of the big things you could get arrested for and sent to jail for is like fake identity to police officers or anyone like that. Right? But if I say my name is Lewis, it's not a lie. That is exactly, and I do go by Lewis. Some like family members call me Lewis, whatever.
Mhm.
That's so
So
funny.
in reality, all I am is me as myself being an idiot in an accent, right? I'm not lying. I'm just dumb. And so like there was that pretense. And
That's
so
a great quote.
we came into,
Not
I'm not
lying,
lying. I'm just dumb. Put that on a t-shirt.
That's a great thumbnail.
That came,
I'm not lying. I'm just dumb.
that came up though,
Yeah.
because the hotel reservation was under Louis Laurent and they needed an ID. And I don't have an ID for Louis Laurent, obviously.
Mhm.
And so I'm there speaking in an accent to this hotel person, like, please, please just let me have this room. Don't make me like call the Libertarian Convention people over here. It's going to ruin it. I don't have to break character, whatever. And eventually they would not give me this room. They would not let me check in. Yeah. And so eventually Libertarian people come over and like, hey, what's the problem? And I'm like, I don't know. They don't give me my room. And then they're like, all right, well, can you give us an ID? And I pull out my Iowa ID that says Donald Lewis G on it. And I'm like, well, this is my real name is Donald Louis Laurent G. And I got my I got my driver's license in Iowa, so they gave me this little thing. And and they looked at it and they're like, oh, okay, cool. And then gave it to him, and that was fine. and I was like, there's
So good.
I was like terrified because like you're improv in character.
Yeah.
And all of this is on
In a
film.
real life situation.
Yeah.
at a
With
hotel.
people who, if they find
Oh.
out, will be very upset
Sure.
because you are
Has
lying.
anyone found out post?
Yeah. So I at the end, like 2 months ago, I made like one video about it because like I had a decent number of people who followed me or whatever, and I like was gonna start putting out other stuff, and I didn't want to just be this weird transition. So I told a bit of the story, and literally every single person who followed me saw it. Like you could see in the metrics, like everyone saw it, and the libertarian people reached back out, and they were like, you know what? This is actually pretty incredible.
No way.
And they were super
Good
nice
for
about
them.
it. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So they were the best. Libertarians, big fan.
That is
Maybe not
amazing.
politically, but the people there were awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
And so yeah, then that snowballed into just like interviewing Marco Rubio and all these congressmen. I flew back to DC a bunch of times to do it, and got paid by both the Republicans and the Democrats to make fun of the other party. Like it was just, I want to make like the sort of end goal with it now is like do a comedy doc or like a comedy special about the experience, because like it was a really interesting insight into the idea of like I ended up becoming the fake news.
Yeah.
Right. This thing of like everyone's saying, oh, like fake news this, fake news that. Like I was the most fake of the fake news. And
Wow.
became it, and then was legitimate in it. Like got
Right.
legitimate interviews and put my own very stupid spin on it.
Yeah.
But then people actually would believe it, right? You'd release a piece of content, people are like, oh, this is what this person believes politically. And I'm like, like that's not
It's fine.
That's not what this person was saying. This is an example of like using media to flip the
Get what
script.
you want
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get what I
Further
want.
your narrative.
And also, right, like
Wow.
I can just edit out certain things, edit out
Right.
clarifiers that I said that he said to make it funnier. And the news is doing the exact same thing.
Oh yeah.
Right.
They do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And I like really thought about this as it started like getting bigger. I was like, man, like this is an odd level of deception for a purpose that I believe in.
Mm.
And I'm like, man, like I did keep in my mind of like, if Vivek Ramaswamy knew this was a joke and he saw it in a year, what would he think? Same thing with Marco Rubio or other people. And I at least hope that whether Republican, Democrat, if they saw it, they would find it funny and not insulting to who they are as a person. Because yeah, like it's weird to have that level of deception
Mm-hmm.
doing comedy, but then see the exact same people who I was paid like to be around, whether they were like influencers on the Democrat side or Republican side, using the exact same tactics I was, but instead of comedy, their goal was propaganda,
Right.
and things that they don't even believe in. Like I saw people post messages that they don't even believe in, get paid 20 grand to do it, and then just move on like it was
Dude,
fine.
this is actually brilliant. The parody is not towards the politician, it's towards the propaganda.
100%. Yeah,
That's what you're trying to make fun of.
Yes, 100%.
And so I think they see that and they go, oh, this is actually really funny.
Yeah, I hope so.
You're pointing out a truth that we all know is there,
Yeah,
but you're just exposing it and bringing it to the
Which
light.
kind of feels like the day and age we live in. Comedians are the prophets today that can say what everyone else thinks and knows,
Right.
but can't say because everyone's so sensitive. And
you
get
do get a
canceled for
lot of
anything.
leeway. Yeah,
But comedians can. But I think things like this are important because, like, especially with Christian people, I feel like you can be like, hey, but ultimately our identity is not in our political party. Like we're here for the kingdom of God, and those things matter, but not at the utmost importance. And everyone's like, oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And then an hour later, they're just up in arms about this, and they hate that, and they're so opinionated
Yeah.
and so obsessed with politics that some people need to get in there and just make fun of this.
yeah,
Remind us all that this isn't the biggest thing ever,
yeah.
and that these are all finite people that are
Very
some of them doing their
flawed.
best, some of them flawed and making a mess. All of that's going on.
Yeah.
But you got to stop putting your faith in these politicians. You got to
100%.
stop putting your faith in politics.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes comedy and laughing at something to make people actually have a much more important perspective of like,
Yeah,
why am I taking this so seriously?
Right.
Or maybe I shouldn't let the media just feed me
100%.
everything I want to hear and think that it's all true and that person is truly who they make them
Yeah.
out to be.
Or at the very least have multiple sources that I'm going to as
have
I'm trying
some
to
form of a
be informed.
perspective that's not just an echo chamber of this one
Yeah.
path that I listen to. So I think you should keep going.
Yeah.
Keep after it
I'm
because
trying.
politics is America's religion,
It is.
and that needs to get crushed out of people's hearts.
I
Because
very much agree. And like, dude, that's one of the things that I try to do. I made some videos about it, and I don't think I did it well. But like, one of the biggest issues I have right now with the sort of state we're in is the weaponization of faith
Mm.
for political means, right? It feels like both parties are attempting to weaponize people's faith to
Interesting.
sway them further to their cause.
Mm.
When in reality, I feel like faith can and should be the middle ground,
Mm.
right? Where,
Yeah.
like you said, right, no matter if you're whatever party, there's something much more meaningful and important
Yeah.
to talk about and to believe in.
Right.
Mm.
And it on both sides, like people will appeal to some people's belief in God or faith in something else.
Mhm.
And I think that is actually going to lead to, if it continues, a way bigger crisis, even within like Christianity,
Mhm.
right? Because some people will be like, okay, like if you're a Christian, you should believe these certain political ideologies. And that to me is really, really concerning.
Yeah. Well, and I think most people, they align their faith to their political beliefs
Right.
Yeah.
rather than the opposite. How
Right.
many Christians every 4 years or whenever, every 2 years, if you vote every 2 years, stop and go, okay, here's all the issues.
Yeah.
Here's the people. Here's what's represented. What does my Bible tell me? What does my faith, what does God speak to me about how I am going to approach these subjects
Yeah.
and the people that are
Right.
affected by these? I don't think that many people do that.
I don't think so either. Yeah. No. And I think like the idea of like, if you look at the things you're called to do, whether it's approaching people with empathy, kindness, goodness, love, like joy, all these things, like I think people would behave very differently
Yeah.
if they really thought about it from that perspective.
Dude. There's a 90-minute documentary there.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that
could
could be
crush
actually
that.
really
Yeah.
hilarious but impactful.
I'm trying.
To-
Yeah.
In the political state that we're in. And so I think so many people are burnt out on that at this point.
Yeah.
It starts to feel like now people are kind of just like, I'm going to say what I think. And I'm
Yes.
going to get back to like not just walking on eggshells about everything,
Yeah.
but also hopefully there's also I'm going to return to seeing people as people again
Yeah.
and not have everything be a political war.
Yeah.
And we can laugh and kind of like do our best within all this, but not put all of our hope into it. So
100%.
Yeah.
keep doing that.
You are,
Go
at
after
some
that.
level, you are rehumanizing the whole thing in a system that's set up to dehumanize.
Yes.
Dehumanize so
100%.
that we can polarize.
Hmm.
You're going, no, let's laugh about this and see that we're all human beings trying to figure this out
Yeah.
together.
I never thought about that, but that's true.
That's a good way of saying
Yeah,
that.
man.
Yeah.
Clip
You got to
that.
do it.
That was well said. Okay, last thing. Did you find out his manager's name?
I did a lot of research. Or
Oh,
male,
no.
and I had AJ help too.
Nice.
No Ethans.
No, Ethan.
And
Oh,
also there
Dude.
was a female, and so I don't know if you got confused maybe.
Ethana?
You want to say some that you found?
Yeah, the most recent one at your most recent job was Davietta Jenkins,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. She's great. Yeah, I like her a lot.
and the one before that was Matt Ferrier.
I don't remember him.
It was, Bolton and
Who are these
and Minx.
people?
These are the
Oh, at Bolton and Mink.
yeah.
Yeah, so I did work at this is a long-term internship in college, and
Who's the guy you were trying to think of? What does he do or
There-
did he?
he's incredible.
It sounds like it.
Are you still working with him?
no.
Okay.
I haven't worked. Since I started doing comedy professionally, I haven't talked to him.
Oh, so he was a boss in a former job.
Yeah, boss, former job.
Ethan?
No,
No,
but
Ethan's
yes.
his current manager?
No, there's
No, Ethan's the guy we're thinking.
Honestly-
I am. My name's Ethan, actually.
Fantastic
And so
guy,
is his.
fantastic boss, big fan. Would love if comedy never works out. I would love to come back. They would never have me back, but I would love to
Not
come.
now, but
Yeah.
that was one of the all-time greatest afterthoughts moments. You know what's crazy?
I don't know his name's
think his
Ethan.
name is Ethan. Well, Donald, thanks for hanging out with us.
Thank you so
Every
much.
time you're
Yeah,
back,
bro.
we'll get
This
you
is
in
great.
here. I told him I'm working up him being a recurring character on this podcast.
Yes.
We have this phone here, so I will pre-program.
Dude, and
779.
Now when I dial that,
Yeah, I was about to give my
it'll
actual
go to
number.
you. Don't
we
do that.
Yeah.
But
for the 2028 election, we should have you here as Louis the entire
Yeah, you
time,
can
like
cover
in
it.
character.
Show
I'm
him that.
very down.
oh,
Very
yeah,
down.
Doug and I are running.
Oh yeah,
I'll vote for you.
Thanks, man. Maybe you could be a part of it. You be a part of it with us.
Yeah.
Can
Yeah.
interview us as Louis.
Yeah. Have me be the first foreign secretary who's actually foreign.
There we
Sure.
go.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
From Iowa.
Yeah.
Well, we are excited for your career. Well,
Thank
I'll
you.
call it a career,
Thank you.
Yeah.
and
Thank
hope you get more and more opportunities just to make people laugh, because we just need that in this
Yeah.
life, and that's a God-given gift. But also to tell your story and impact a lot of people in a nihilistic world that need to find the hope
Yeah,
of Jesus.
bro.
So
Yeah.
keep doing what you're doing, man. Thanks for hanging out with
Well,
us.
thank y'all so much. This is great.
No.
I'm a
You,
fan.
man.
It's awesome, bro.
We'll see you soon.
Woo. I'll see you on Sunday.
Sunday. Let's come to church.